Saturday night's main event is back, and the lovely Elizabeth is in my corner. Now the power of Hulkamania is even stronger on Saturday night's main event.
It's the most thrilling race in the sport of kings. The 1988 Breeders' Cup Steeplechase, only on NBC Sports World.
Just ahead on Channel 3 News Nightcast, the ordeal almost over for Conan Owen. We'll have reaction to his impending release from a Spanish prison.
Hotel Syracuse strikers get some help in actions and words.
A surprise ending for a spectacular fire.
And what's hot this Halloween? I'm John Nicholson.
I'm Lisa Schweitzer. Stay with us for Nightcast next.
The story that touched our hearts and our imaginations, the story that touched the world, is now on video cassette, E.T. And Hills has it. The biggest movie blockbuster of all time for the low price of just $12.68 after rebate from Pepsi. Bring E.T. home today at just $12.68. It's too good to let it pass you by. Hills has low prices every day and the whole store to prove it.
The federal government offered to give Central New York $315,000 for better parks and playgrounds for our kids. But Jim Walsh said no to the money. They offered $500,000 to improve our streets and create jobs. But Jim Walsh said, no, we don't need it. Another $500,000 for more housing for our area. Another no from Jim Walsh. All in all, Jim Walsh voted to refuse $6.5 million for Central New York. If Jim Walsh won't say yes to what we deserve, how's he going to know how to fight for what we need?
The news station, WSTM TV. And now, Channel 3 News Nightcast with John Nicholson and Lisa Schweitzer. Roger Springfield on sports, and meteorologist Wayne Mahar.
Good evening, and thanks for being with us. Conan Owen's nightmare may finally be over tonight.
Owen's a Syracuse University graduate who spent the past year and a half being held in Spain. He was convicted of drug trafficking, though all along he said he was innocent, set up. Well, today the Spanish government authorized the transfer of Owen to an American prison. Channel 3's Elizabeth Franny has more on Owen's story and reaction here to today's news.
Conan Owen's ordeal began in March 1987. He arrived at Barcelona's airport carrying what he thought was a suitcase full of brochures for a travel agency. But customs agents found cocaine hidden in the bag. He sat in a Barcelona prison for nearly a year before going to trial. A Spanish court found him guilty, sentenced him to 6 years in jail, and fined him $20,000. This despite an investigation by U.S. drug enforcement agents which found that he was set up. Conan's friends at Syracuse University have been following his plight from the start, often writing to him in jail. They, too, believe he's innocent. Today's news gave them new hope for Conan's return.
I've heard it from a couple of sources. I mean, at least he's coming back over here. When, we'll have to see, but you can't get around it. It's a positive step, you know. I'm happy.
And although news of Conan's return home elated his friends, they are cautiously optimistic.
We learned very early in this case, those friends of his, that Spanish justice is a contradiction in terms. It's just not anything that we know as justice at all. So even though we think that things are settled, that things will work out right, we were convinced right from the start everything would work out fine, this would take a little bit of time, and he'd be sent home. It never happened that way.
Sources tell Channel 3 News that today's ruling should have come last week, but a Spanish judge that was supposed to vote on the exchange missed a meeting, delaying the transfer. Otherwise, Conan could have been home yesterday.
Now, as part of this deal, he had to drop his appeal of the conviction. In essence, he's saying, okay, fine, you found me guilty. He's not changing his story, is he?
No, he's always maintained his innocence. The plea is just a technicality to get him out.
Okay, thanks very much, Elizabeth. Conan Owen's parents say they have never doubted his innocence. They've worked tirelessly for his release. Late today, down in Washington, they told Dave Marish of WRC-TV when they got the good news.
Word came from us around noon today from the State Department advising us that the Spanish Council of Ministers had approved the request for transfer.
Now that the request has been approved, do you have any idea when Conan will actually set foot on American soil again?
No, we haven't been given a date. We've just been told that they would try to arrange it as quickly as possible.
Ernest Owen said it is possible his son will have to spend some time in prison in this country before he goes free. So far, the U.S. government has not said it.
Tonight, Benjamin Killingsworth is probably worrying about possibly serving prison time, too. Killingsworth is on trial for murder, accused of beating 8-month-old Reginald Phillips to death. Today, the first witness for the defense was a paramedic expert who said the baby's injuries could have been caused by improper use of the resuscitation technique. Killingsworth is said to have tried to give the baby CPR the night he died. On adults, 2 hands are used to press down on a person's chest. On an infant, only 2 fingers are needed. But on the stand today, Onondaga County Medical Examiner Dr. Eric Mitchell didn't buy that theory.
It's wholly incompatible with even the improper application of CPR. I mean, were there other people present?
Killingsworth's defense attorney says the medical examiner's opinion contradicts all other evidence and asks that the case be dismissed. There's no ruling, though, on that yet.
That industrial fire near downtown Syracuse today was spectacular, all right, but the assessment tonight is it won't put anybody out of work, not even for a day. What burned was Coyne Textile Services maintenance garage, and at the height of the fire, foul-smelling smoke covered much of downtown. The area near the fire was evacuated.
Well, when they told me propane, I was definitely afraid of a big explosion.
There was no big explosion, and the propane tanks investigators found were nothing like the 100-pound size they had feared might be in there. How did it start? Well, it looks like it happened as a Coyne worker was getting a lesson on spray gun cleaning.
During that process, a worker was using a cutting torch, and some of the product was spilled on the floor, which is common, and the fumes were ignited, and we had ourselves a pretty good fire.
By early afternoon, that fire that had begun around 10 in the morning was out. People in the neighborhood went back home, and the rest of Coyne's employees back to work. And we're told the people who worked in that now burned-out garage will go right back to work in the building next door.
Union members on strike against the Hotel Syracuse don't seem anywhere near going back to work, and tonight they held a rally outside the hotel.
How do we get some respect? When they cut taxes for the powerful and the rich, but cut the wages of the working man and woman, how do we get respect?
Members of Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition and congressional candidate Rosemary Pooler were just some of those supporting the strikers. Members of several other unions were there, too.
These people need help. These people are deserving of a decent wage, and they're not getting it. And it's not fun being on a picket line all the time they've been. They're giving up a wage. They're out here walking these picket lines. They need as much help and support as they can. And we're down here to try to help them.
While hotel union workers stay on picket lines they've been on since October 6th, the State Bar Association convention is going on this weekend inside.